Well, hello and happy Sunday to all of my beautiful people. Today I am coming to you with a message on the company that you keep. And one of the reasons why that came to my heart is because, of course, it's Sunday all across America. And a lot of us are in our church houses, in our place of worship, in our community where we're getting a message, where we're getting a word, where we're fellowshipping together, communion with one another. Sunday dinners are big on this day all across America, no matter what race or creed you're from. There's going to be a unity of togetherness, whether that togetherness is with one another or that togetherness is with someone you're sitting across the table from, if you're in an institution like a prison or a hospital or a boot camp or a youth camp, someplace where there's togetherness, there's a sense of fellowship on this day. But this message is for those who believe that the company you keep is just as important as the company that you're not a part of, right? The company you keep is just as important as the company that's not around, right? Sometimes in our life, we are, some folks would say, and this is my religious people, some folks would say we are blessed to be in the presence of people who appears to have the favor of God on their life, which means wherever they come into a room, you feel an energy of blessings that they bring with them. People want to be around them. This particular people have charisma. They have what people would say they got it going on. You hear me? And so the company you keep is so important. I was reading a scripture today, and I have known this scripture for over 20 years, but I never really paid attention to it. And it was, I believe it was in Genesis, the 25th chapter or the 20th chapter. I don't have my Bible with me, but you can Google it and you can find out the correct chapter. But it was talking about when Abraham, and this is the Old Testament, when Abraham and his wife Sarah had journeyed, they were going on a trip. And so Abraham, being fearful that the land that he was coming into, or the area where this particular Amalek ruled, he didn't know if this man was of God. And so he had a little fear on his life. It's almost like you can go places, the safe places, like you can go to church. Okay, that's a safe place. You don't have to um, put on front for anyone because you're in a safe place. Sometimes a school can be a safe place, and depending on, who you with and who your friends are. So he was coming into a territory that he wasn't sure if it was a safe place. And so his wife, Sarah, was a very beautiful woman. And so when he came into that town, he figured that he had to lie and say Sarah, his wife, was his sister, and that they were needing to go take care of some business. And so they didn't want, or he didn't want Sarah to be taken if that was his wife. Back then, sometimes when you're in battle, when you're in war, when you come up in another territory, sometimes they can take your stock, which would be your animals and the possessions that you have, and sometimes they can take your wife or your combines or the people that are in your party. That's how ruthless it was back then. And some people think that today, with people coveting your spouse or taking your spouse, that it's rough. But back then, if you were to come up into another territory or area, they would take all of your possessions, including your family. So, of course, Abraham, he told a story that, yeah, this is my sister, because he knew that there was no harm to be brought, against him. And so, of course, they get through Amalek. And so I believe Sarah was in the presence of Amalek. She wasn't in the presence of him as far as sleeping with him, but she was in range of him because Amalek was a king. And so God came to Amalek at night and he said, you're basically coveting another person's wife, right? And because of that, your household will be barren, which means you're not going to bring forth any kids. You're barren. And back then, that's how God worked with the people, because one of God's greatest commandment is that we produce and multiply in our likeness. Just like you see the animals and the insects and the bugs, how they just multiply and produce in their likeness. That's what we were supposed to do. But every now and then you'll come across a story in the Bible and it shows a family who may have been cursed with barrenness. They couldn't bear anything. And so God had punished Amalek for taking another man's wife. But he didn't know that that was his wife, because Abraham said that was his sister. And so that's why I said you have to be careful of the company that you keep, because here is Abraham and his wife is in the presence of Amalek the king. Abraham lied and he brought punishment to the king. King wasn't even aware of what the heck was going on until God came to him. And so this is I guess the highlight of this message, and it's not going to be long. It's going to be under 10 minutes, this message, just so that you guys can get the point of what I'm saying. The company you keep, sometimes you're not even aware of what baggage, what spirit that these people are bringing into your life. They can come to you in a form of innocence. It can be deceptive. It can be a lie. And you're taking them in as good. And they bring curses upon you without you even knowing it. They could have came to you because they was fearful of their own self, right? But they brought curses to you. So always pray, always meditate, and always ask for direction whenever somebody new comes into your presence to stay. You hear me? Always ask for direction. Meditate, pray whenever someone new comes into your presence to stay, because you could be bringing sin upon yourself and your family without even knowing it. And that's my message.